So I guess we'll just talk and hang out with everybody for a while. Let's see. We got Rockham, North Carolina, Jacksboro, Texas, Rockingham, North Carolina, Lincoln, Nebraska, Virginia, Central Illinois, Charleston, Portland, Waconia, Minnesota. I'm probably pronouncing some things wrong, so sorry. San Francisco. Ooh, we got a Northern Ireland. Hi, Ireland.
Hi, Ireland. You must be up late at night.
Yeah, well, not quite late, because I think it's...
What time is it in Ireland?
7 or 8 hours past us. So if it's 12:30, so it's probably 7 or 8 p.m. in Ireland. Here's a BC, Edmonton, Canada, West Virginia, Dayton, Minnesota, American Falls, Idaho. We got a Quebec. So we got people from all over the world here, which is exciting. Also, if Elise is on, so Elise is our, let's see. So Elise is our graphics designer, and she's sitting at the office. We're at the design studio. If Elise is on, can you make sure to share this to the Quiltworx Support Network and the Quiltworx Kits and Classes page? I think that should work.
Okay, everybody, if you have your patterns with you, it may be a little easier to follow me through.
Apparently,
today.
Mom wants to start.
No, I just would like you guys, if you have your patterns and you don't have them with you, go find them while you're waiting.
Oh, there you go. So for those of you who don't have everything in front of you, if you have a pattern, she's saying, let's go get it. And, oh, we got Huntsville, Alabama, Florida, Maryland. Oh, I see Elise. She says, hi there, I'm here. So, and then we have, so also, I guess I can use this time for a couple other things too. If you don't have a pattern and you're tuning in and you want to watch us today, go ahead and watch. And if you want to get a pattern, I can show you where you can go to get it. We also have a pre-class video. So I'm going to switch over to the internet here for a second. And then I'm going to take you to a couple pages. So first we're going to go to a place called Quiltster.com. If you do not have fabric yet and you watch us and today you decide you want to join us, all of these videos are going to be available for you to tune into later. And you can come to Quiltster.com and go to Marketplace. And you can go down to Quilt Kits. And then on Quilt Kits, you can go to, let's see here. You want to go to Quilt Shops, and then, or sorry, not Quilt Shops, because there's lots of shops who have it. You want to go to Patterns, and then you want to search Patterns for Macaw. And that's going to pop up a whole bunch of Macaw kits from all over, well, as soon as it does its thing. Let's see. Hold on just a second. There we go. Search patterns. I guess I have to click that box when it pops up. So then I go patterns, Macaw. Let's try that one more time because I keep bumping my buttons. So there's that one. And then if you want to make the queen size, you can do that again and choose queen. And I will mention, the other thing you could do, which probably would have been easier, is just type in Macaw here, and I think that pops up the queen and the wall. So if I scroll down here, there's Macaw kits from all over the quilting world, and these are from different sellers for Quiltster. Some of them are from us, some of them are from others. So you can see different options and you can get yourself a kit. And I actually will be putting out probably 3 or 4 more kit options in the next couple days too for people that are still wanting to join us. Let's see, Mom, we got Colorado, Concord, North Carolina, Birmingham, Alabama. So anyway, that should help you guys to find kits. And then also, if you wanted to use Quiltster to do a, if you want to use Quiltster to color your own, there is a subscription fee for Quiltster. It's $9.99 a month or $99 a year, but you can use Quiltster and color your own. So if you're interested in that option, I'm just going to show you really quick on our YouTube channel. Go to, so this is the Quiltworx YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to that, go ahead and go out and subscribe. It's a great resource, and you can see our video is live there right now on this page. But there's also this pre-class workshop for Macaw and Macaw Queen. If you click on that one, there's a demo at the end that shows you how to use Quiltster to color your own macaw quilt if that's something that you want to try out. So just some things to think about if you don't already have a pattern. It looks like Durham, North Carolina, Williams Lake, BC, Canada, Surrey, BC, Canada. All right. So I'm going to go back to our YouTube channel here. So anyway, you'll be able to see the pre-class workshop. You'll be able to watch this workshop. And then also, I wanted to show you guys real quick while we're here, this playlist button. And all this is covered in that pre-class workshop as well. So I'm just showing it to you for people who haven't seen it. So there's this button called Macaw over here, and it says View Full Playlist. If you click on that, all of the videos for learning Macaw are going to show up there. And that's actually important because we're going to take you there today too, because you're going to watch a couple pre-recorded videos to learn the paper piecing for some of the sections on this. So anyway, just some things to think about. If you want to just buy a pattern and you want to use your own fabric stash, which it looks like someone actually just posted that question. So Carol asked, is it possible to use your own fabric stash and make macaw? How would a person start? Is there a video somewhere? So in Quiltster, you can add your own fabric stash to see what it looks like, or you can just choose your own fabric stash if you want. But I'm going to show you some things real quick. So also on our, so Quiltworx.com is our website. If you go to products, patterns, and then come down here, there's a Macaw Queen. You can click on that and you can buy just the pattern. And to find the regular macaw, it's actually a few pages back. The fastest way to get there is not to use our search bar. Don't use that. It's not working. We're actually going through a big website update, so hopefully soon you're going to see some really cool new things there. Soon means 6 months, right? Hopefully. But anyway, in the meantime, you can sort from A to Z or Z to A on our website. So I'm going to just sort from A to Z, and then you can go find the page that has macaw. So we'll just try number 6 to see kind of if we're close. Not quite there yet, so we're going to go to 7. And that's going to help. This should help you guys move around our website a little bit while you're figuring out. So look, there's Macaw and there's Macaw Queen. You click on those and you can click buy now and you can just buy the patterns. You can also actually just buy the patterns on Quiltster. So you can buy our products in either locations, but on Quiltster, we're going to go back there for a second. I'll show you where it's at there. So back to Marketplace, and you can go to Quilt Patterns, and then you can search for Macaw under Quilt Patterns. a lot of shops have Macaw right now, partly because we were doing this. And so that's also an option, is to always check with your local quilt shop. You can also go to a, let's see, a certified shop too. So how do we find our certified shops? Oh, someone's tuning in from the middle of nowhere in Montana. We love that. So, Quiltworx.com. So on our website, you can also find a list of shops who are certified. So it says certified shops here right at the top. Then it says United States, Canada, Australia, Europe. All of those areas of the world have certified shops. So if you live in any of those, so we're going to choose Australia. You can click there, scroll down, and you can see all the shops. You can zoom in on this map and go see. So in Alice Springs, we have Country Bliss. So if you happen to be tuning in from Alice Springs and you want to know a quilt shop that does Quiltworx products, this is one place you can go. Whether or not they have Macaw patterns, you'll have to call and see. But if they don't, they can also order them. So we are still able to send to our distributor in Australia. We are post to through the USPS, so to customers who order direct from our site, is limited right now because of COVID in Australia. But if you are interested in
we have a cat.
Yeah, so we're taking care of a cat. I might let her in later and let you guys say hi, but she was up on the counter and in everything over the last 30 minutes, so I put her out and closed the door, and now her little paws are underneath the door and she's meowing to come back in. But anyway, back to post in Australia. We're doing our best, and as soon as it opens up, we will be able to send direct to customers again. In the meantime, please consider contacting some of these shop owners, and even if you can't get the patterns right away, you can still tune in to these videos anytime because they'll be here forever. So again, Canada, Australia, Europe, United States, you can see shops in all of those locations. And anyway, we are thankful to have them because they make it so much easier to get to everybody. Someone asked, how long will the recording of this class be available? The answer to that is forever. So we are going to, someone said, is she going to show us how to cut all this fabric and organize it? So we are.
Yes.
The answer to that is yes. I did do a pre-class cutting workshop last it was on the 20th, I think, of October. So if you didn't see that, tune into that as well. You can watch it after you see us live today. But I started everybody off from how to get their kits, where to get the kits, a lot of things I just covered in this earlier, in this half hour here, and how to get it set up so that it's cut into strips when you get started. Between then and now, we did notice a mistake in Quiltster. We're going to go over that today with you. It has to do with how the L1 through L8 pieces were labeled. But we'll go over it today and make sure that everybody gets everything set up the right way. But yes, we are going to cover cutting. We're going to cover organization. We're going to cover paper piecing. We're going to cover assembly. We're going to cover everything. And remember, it's so if you're new, if you haven't seen anything about this yet, which is the case for some people, there's 4 parts to this video. So today is the first one. Let's see. November 10th, which is next Wednesday, is video 2. And then we're going to take a little break. And then in December, there's going to be a video on December 8th, and December 15th. So I'm doing all this off my memory, as you can probably see from my facial expressions. But the 8th and the 15th are going to be for learning to do the queen size expansion blocks. So this is something that, so if you're only doing wall, which is the size that's on the wall behind me, then November classes are all you need, plus the 2 pre-recorded ones that we're going to talk about today. And if you're doing the queen, then you're going to need the classes in December as well. Someone said, hi, I'm in the UK. Do you have a distributor in the UK, please? We don't have a quilt shop in the UK that is certified, but that doesn't mean that there isn't one carrying our patterns. So you'll have to call around and ask. I know that they can get them. There are distributors who distribute to the quilt shop, so they should be able to buy the products if they're interested. But at the present time, we actually don't have a shop that has come to Quiltworx and wanted to be certified. So I would love it if we did. That would be awesome. So please let me know if you're interested. We did post, Elise just posted a list of our European certified shops. So there are some shops in Europe. They're located in Spain and Germany and and I think there's one in the Netherlands or Belgium. So I need to double check that list, but she provided the excuse me, she provided the link for you, and you can click that, look around. The other thing is there is a page on Facebook called Quiltworx University. Let's see. I'm going to search for this because hopefully it should pop up. Quiltworx.com. Quiltworx University at Stitch in Heaven. I might have to get, oh, Patchwork Promotions, Quiltworx University for Europe. There you go. So if you guys go out and follow this page, if you're from Europe, you can ask questions and send messages to them, and they can also help get you connected with people who can come to different areas and teach, and who are actively involved with making Quiltworx patterns. So definitely go out and follow this page. Like I said, you can, oh wait, you guys are watching me. Let me transition. Sorry. Okay, so Patchwork Promotions, Quiltworx University for Europe. So you can follow this page, you can send them messages, you can see more information about them. They were just together working on some patterns. So Gundi's Quilt Heaven is one of the shops. She was in the Netherlands at a retreat working on the coral reef, and her shop is in Germany, I believe. So if I click here, you can go follow her shop as well. So for those in Europe, we do have a group that stays very involved with Quiltworx, and you can learn more about them here. And their page is so pretty. All these quilt pictures of finished projects and patterns. And so definitely check in. Look at this great group of ladies. They are so committed to everything that we do over there. And they're great resources for you guys if that's where you're at. Let's see. Let's switch back to me here. Hi. Okay.
I was gonna say something.
Oh.
After we get done with today's class, one of the things maybe we can do for 30 minutes before our upcoming classes is actually answer questions. So if you guys are working on the stuff that we go over today between the next couple of weeks. If you have questions, then go ahead and just write them down, and then you can ask us when we get back to you in the next workshop for about 30 minutes before we start.
Okay, that's a good idea. Let's, so in other words, we'll come on 30 minutes early the next time and go through everybody's questions so that everyone gets to see the answers. So you can either type them into the comments below, like you guys are doing right now, and we can come back and answer those later. So someone just asked a question. They said, I purchased a wall hanging. Now I'm ringing. Now I'm thinking that I might want to make the queen. Do I have to purchase the whole pattern again, or can I just get the additional parts? You can just get the additional parts. It does cost a little bit more money to buy things individually like that. And then you can decide whether or not you want to get the information on how to assemble it, which is in a little introduction booklet. So we can, let's see, I will get you some links to the individual parts, and we'll try and get them posted. And then we'll also go over that. And if you guys aren't following the event page for this, you should. I don't get a chance to get to it every single day, but I try and get out there and answer all the questions that come through. So how do you follow the event? I'm going to switch back to Facebook here for a second. On this page, let's see, go over on the side, it says events. So events. So if I click on events, let's see, I can't see it because I got something in the way here. Okay. So if I click on events, now yours might look a little bit different because I'm functioning from the admin page, but find the free Quilt Along with Judy live event. And then there's a discussion here. And I post things in here, and I get lots of comments, and I try and get in and answer all of these questions here. So I've been talking to a lot of people who are tuning in for the event or tuning in later. So if there's something specific, you guys can all post in here and ask questions as well. And you can also see the answers to what everybody else asks. So it's a great place to get everybody on the same page. And then also, let's see, that button didn't go where I thought it was going to. Okay, let's go back to Quiltworx. You can also, on this page, and I got this little box here in the way, so I'm going to move that out of the way. But see these three little buttons? If you click on those, you can click follow settings. And if you click on follow settings, you can set it up so that you're notified of all videos. So if you want live videos, you can set that to all notifications. And then you can click update. So then every time we go live, you'll get an update of that. You can also follow our YouTube channel, which does a lot of the same things. So let's see, how are we doing here? Looks like we got about 122 people on. Yay. I'll see if there's any more questions. Oh, we got a good morning from Brisbane, Australia. Hey, Brisbane, Australia. Memphis, Missouri. Barb wants to say hi to Carol, and Carol said hi back. So anyway, let's see, is there anything else that anybody wants to know before class starts, or because we're getting close here. It's 12:55. So just a few more minutes. Mostly I just want to wait for people who are planning to log in to come on and let us know about it. So is end. I'm not seeing anyone saying they're having trouble with hearing or trouble with video or anything. So I do have one person saying that there might be a slight delay between audio and visual. I'm not sure if it's a that could be your computer, that could also be us. So let's see how it goes. That's a pretty minor issue. If it's continues on, we might play with that a little bit for the next video as well. So I also need to turn on the recording. So I'm going to start recording this now. And then that way we'll have a backup recording in case we need it, in case we get disconnected or we lose something or whatever. So, all right. Someone says no delay here. Sounds like we're good. No delay here. Hi from Oak Grove, Oregon. Lawrence, Kansas. So excited. First time seeing you both from Charleston, South Carolina. We're excited to see you too, even though it's virtual, but the fact that we can even do this is amazing. And if anybody doesn't know, in fact, I'm going to tilt the screen up. See that up there? That's our video studio thing that we put together last year with lots of cameras, lots of lights. And if you saw it from my side, you'd see multiple video screens here and buttons to push. So hopefully I do a good job of that today. And, oops, Tamara says this is fun. Well, we kind of think it's fun too. So if it goes well. It's a lot
funner to do it this way than it is to just do a video and have to go back and edit it. But true. You guys have to deal with all of my mistakes that I tell you about today.
That's right. And you might have to deal with something not working perfectly, something glitching out or whatever. But we'll do our best to cover any content that might be missed if it's a big problem. Going live carries a few risks, but it is more fun because we do like to interact with you guys. We like to hear you. We like to be able to answer questions. And the other thing is once we do these live, we don't have to go back and watch them again and edit them like we do on our pre-recorded videos. So it's also a time saver for us. Hi from Hayward, Wisconsin. Hi, Jane. Hi, Sandy. Marianne Patterson from New Zealand. She's one of our certified
Hi, Marianne.
Instructors in New Zealand. So we're excited to see that she's tuned in. Edna Carroll from Ontario. Hello, this is wonderful. Good. I'm glad that you guys are happy with this. Denise Need says, a smiley face. We got Branson, Missouri, Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm so excited. There's lots of work to be done from Beth. Deborah Sanderson says hello from Ontario. We got Nebraska. We're up to 162 viewers. So hello from Olaf, Kansas. Hi from Sweden. Hi, Sweden. Sheridan, Illinois, Reno, Nevada, Eugene, Oregon. I'm excited for this. From Karen, Oswego, Illinois, Clearwater, Florida. Oh, Tammy Gardner from Michigan. She's a certified instructor.
Hi, Tammy.
Columbia, South Carolina, Danforth, Illinois, Lake in the Hills, Illinois, Shell, Wyoming, New Brunswick, Canada. All right, I'm not going to be able to keep reading those or we're never going to get started. And it is 1 o'clock. So for everybody that nobody's late, we have just been talking and gabbing and we haven't started class. But we are going to start class now. And even if you are just a little bit late, I think you can actually rewind, go back. But even if you don't do that,
We'll cover everything.
It's all going to be recorded, so you can click back in and rewatch it as many times as you want for the rest of your life if you want to. So I'm Judel Niemeyer. I'm Judy's daughter, and that's Judy behind me. So I am going to actually switch over to Judy, and we're going to get started because we have a lot to cover in 2 hours. So all right, you're on, Mom.
Hi, everybody. I'm really glad you're here. I don't really like doing videos and recording, but I find that I'm really comfortable doing live video and working with people when I actually know I'm talking to somebody. So I just want to go over a couple of things before we get started, and one of them is we just decided a few minutes ago when we were chatting, and for those of you that were not part of that chat, we're going to do about a 30-minute chat before each workshop that we put out, and it'll give us a chance to go in and answer some questions that you may come up with between now and next Wednesday. And so just remember that if you tune in a little bit early next time, you'll be able to be part of that chat. And we'll start at 12:30, right? Or 1:30? 12:30. Okay. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get through basically how to sort your fabric once it's cut. And we're going to go over how to cut it. We're also going to go over a few of the instructions in the pattern, and then we're going to talk about some issues that you need to pay attention to when you work through your instructions. Now, I can't teach you how to do this whole quilt in 2 hours because I can't sew the whole thing together in 2 hours, but we do have video on all of the different parts that we're going to be working with. Other than I think it's one video, but we'll get that out to you.
Hold on, Mom. I put the wrong thing.
Okay.
See, we had our first live mistake, so let's see what I just did. Hold on for a second, everybody. You can click stop.
What did you do?
Okay, I think we're fine now.
Okay. So there's just a few things that I just want to go over that that will help you be able to follow your instructions a lot easier, okay? So the first thing we're going to go through is some of you have the Macaw pattern that's just the wall hanging, which is 68 inches by 68 inches, okay? And then some of you have the Macaw pattern that's a queen. And so if you look at the difference between them, so when you work with the queen, you're going to rotate, all of the colors get rotated because you're putting everything on point. Okay, so just think of it as everything's going to be rotated 45 degrees. So as I start talking about where a color goes or what you're going to do with a color or how to arrange it, realize that if you're doing the queen, it's going to rotate differently than the wall. And sometimes I might talk about the queen, and sometimes I might talk about the wall. The wall quilt that's we have on the full finished quilt is actually rotated like the queen. But what I'm going to be working with back here behind me, that's actually set up to follow the rotation of the one that's on the wall sides. All right, so bear with the difference in how we're going to talk about color. The other thing I want to point out is when you get your pattern, Judel went over and gave you guys a link to a video that was set up that showed you how to set up a whole book. Okay, so I've actually taken all my sheets and cut them apart. And I've also gone through my instructions and added little swatches to different things so that I don't get confused with color. And as we go through it, I'm going to show you how to do all those swatches. All right. So after you cut up your pattern and get it set up into your folder, if you're doing the queen, you're going to have the queen border, and you're also you're going to have a C group as well. Okay, so you're going to need a little bit bigger booklet to do that than what I have here, or your booklet's going to fall apart. So right at the moment, I'm going to actually pull out the C group and the queen group and set it aside, because we're not really even going to talk about any of this today. And then I don't have to worry about my book falling apart. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the beginning. And what I did here is I have an envelope, because with these instructions, if you follow, go to page 1, in the first column under the newsprint, it actually tells you the parts that are in this quilt, and we've named everything. So we have our palm leaf, which is actually what I have on the wall here, and then underneath there it has the leaf top, which is the next round that fits in between these pieces. And then we have an L group, which will fit between those. And then we have the tiny ray border, okay? And we're going to go over all of this information today. The only part we're not going to get into is the L, how to do the rainbow part of the L group and do the paper piecing on it. And I will cover all of that in the next video. And I think that's probably one of the most important videos that you're going to need to watch to see how that concept is put together, all right? When you open up your pattern and after you get all your sheets pulled apart, there's going to be a newsprint left over, and it's the LP newsprint. And what this one is that's going to tell you how to assemble it. So we're not going to get into it right now because we don't need to, but what I'm going to do is actually put it in one of my folders at the very beginning so that I don't lose it, because you don't want to lose that sheet. So make sure it goes back with your instructions. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cover sheet, and we're going to actually put the cover sheet for the wall in the very front of my booklet. And that way, when I pick up my booklet, I'll always know that that's what's in this booklet.
And
okay?
I'm going to cut in here just for a second, Mom.
Okay.
If you're wondering more about the booklet that she's showing in the pre-class video that we did a couple weeks ago, and it's on the YouTube page and the Facebook page, there is information on how to set those up and links to some other video content that we have to walk you through all of those details. So if you don't have that and you're wondering how to make it happen, please go back and watch that, and then you can see how that's all set together. So
okay, so I'm going to go back to our instruction booklet here, and we're going to go through some pages here just to get us on track so you guys can follow. So page 1, basically it has what those parts are, what the groups are that we're working with, which is a J, K, L, and a B is a border. All right, and then we have underneath there's that little correction, and I believe Judel told you about how to use the correction in the other one. Okay, everything else on page 1 is just really just definition. It talks about the tools, and I believe she went through all of that. We get through page 2 and page 3, and it's basic information. And one of the things I want to tell you about this is when we're doing pretty much every pattern that we create, we pretty much take page 1, 2, and 3 and put it into every single pattern. So if you've made several of our quilts, you're going to understand how to read all of that, all right? If it's the first time you've ever done one of our quilts, you really do need to go through and read that before you start doing all your cutting, because it talks about, it basically gives you the language. If you don't understand what something is, that's going to explain our language in terms that we use throughout the pattern, all right? And then on page 4, if you're doing, doesn't matter whether you're doing the wall quilt or the queen, on page 4 in the second column, Judel, can you scroll down or get this down a little bit? Right in here, if you're doing the rainbow quilt, you need to set your colors up like this and put a swatch in there and realize that in this pattern, yellow is my #1 fabric from A1 to 8, or it goes from A to H. All right, so you may find it as we go through it, I might talk about A fabric, B fabric, C fabric, which would be A through H, which is our rainbow colors, or I might call it color 1, color 2, color 3, color 4. Okay, now we can't name. As we go through this, we have a naming system in our patterns that is very structured between all of our quilts. So we basically put our fabric name with the group name, and then we go through all of our colors, right? And so those 8 colors aren't always going to fall in. We can't just call it color 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 all the time, because the book may have it as J3H, which would actually be the green rainbow fabric. Okay, you will understand that as we get going through this a little bit, but go ahead and put your swatches right there. And normally when I do swatches, if I'm setting up swatches before I've cut anything out, I'll actually just cut like a 1/2 inch piece off of each fabric. But if I haven't, if I've already gone through and done the cutting, then I'll just cut the swatches off the fabrics after I get all the strips cut, because sometimes you may not have an extra 1/2 inch, and sometimes you might, and if you make a mistake, sometimes you might wish you hadn't done that. So you kind of have to just make that decision on your own. All right, then it goes through and it explains the color systems as you go through, talks about the solid black fabrics, the white fabrics, the mottled fabrics, and just follow through that. And you're going to have to read those instructions because we're not going to go through those. All right, and then we're going to get into, it goes into general piecing, and the general piecing is just our standardized information. Like it talks about transition and registration lines, it talks about how to set up your machine for your stitch length, and so it's just standard information. If you disagree with what I'm saying in there, then just do it the way you want to do it. It doesn't matter. In the big picture, it talks about how to take off the foundation papers and things like that. So that's basically what that information is. And then there's a quick example on how to do chain piecing. Once you learn the steps of paper piecing, we chain everything. All right.
Mom.
Yeah.
We do have one question I think you should answer sooner, and maybe to the whole groups. She said, when I'm using different colors in the rainbow, how is this going to work?
On the rainbow?
Well, she's saying if she didn't set it up as a rainbow, or she's using different colors than a rainbow, how
then basically you have to still come up with what you want, color 1. So let's say you only had 4 colors. You would have a color 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you would repeat those 4 colors. So you have to figure out how you're going to do how you're going to repeat the colors as you go through there. And if you're not, you can do that by strictly just setting those 8 colors up on that same page that I did, or you can go out, if you have Quiltster, you can color it on Quiltster, and that way if you don't like the way you have it colored, you can move things around and recolor. And so Quiltster is a really great tool for designing how you want your fabrics to go. But if you have 2 fabrics, then you're going to have one is going to be 1, your second color is going to be 2, your third color is going to probably be a repeat of 1, your fourth color is going to be a 2 again. You see what I'm saying?
Flip back to that page.
Huh?
Flip back to the page with the rainbows on it first.
Okay, I'll go back right here.
Yep. So she has yellow, orange, red, pink, blue, purple, blue, teal, green, right?
Yeah.
If you had all shades of blue, just paste them on there, and then that's going to be your fabric name, and then you follow the directions through for however you have it. If they're all the same color, then just put a fabric on there for all the same color, and then the cutting gets pretty easy because you don't have to keep track of your fabrics, and so does the sewing. But whatever you want those fabrics to be, just label them that way.
Yeah. And if you have 4, then it would basically be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you would do a repeat of color.
Right.
2. You're going to have to use 1 color, 2 colors, 4 colors, or 8 colors. That's all. You only have that choice. So it's pretty easy to follow. All right?
What color of thread do you have in your machine for the rainbow piecing?
I switch my thread a lot. So if I'm working with black backgrounds, when I'm doing the piecing, I'll work with white threads if I have. But if I'm working with, if all my backgrounds were black, I would probably have a dark gray thread. So you're going to have to determine the colors on your thread. I don't like working with white on black because it's going to leave lines. You're going to see all your stitch lines once they put it on a quilt frame. Okay, so you have to make your decision on your thread. A lot of people like to find a universal color and just stick with that. I have a tendency to change my threads quite a bit. Okay, so we're going to start. Well, actually, I want to get through. So then after we get through with all of that general information, then it starts getting into all of the cutting. And what you're going to find is it'll say Group A, Bag J003, and I'm on page 7. Then it tells me I'm making the palm leaf, and then there's going to be instructions for it.
And that should say Group J. I need to issue a correction.
Oh, yeah, that should say Group J. You're right.
I know that, but I haven't done it yet. So.
Okay, so then underneath there you have what your foundation papers are going to look like if you haven't cut them out already. All right, and then you have instructions, and it starts out, there's a fabric chart. I want you to put your colors in your fabric chart. If this is the first time you've done this, make sure you assign your colors to that fabric chart. If it says rainbow fabric, you're not going to be able to get 8 colors assigned to it, so just put a color in there, like the first color, and that will take care of that. If you have 2 colors, just put the first color, because every time you come to rainbow, it's going to say rainbow colors. All right, and then underneath there, this unit label, it says unit color layout. You need to know where your colors go, because if you chose a whole bunch of colors that have nothing to do with what we're doing, you need to know where they're going to fall in that. So if you had different colors for your spikes and you were only doing 2, you still need to know where that's going to fall. And so those layouts are important. And then you get underneath there, and now it starts getting into all of the cutting information. So this is where we're going to start basically with our information, but I want to tell you there's 2 ways to cut out your quilt. One is to follow all of this, and you would go to fabric J1 and you would read the instructions, and it'll tell you to cut 2 4.5-inch strips. Okay, and then it's going to tell you how to stack them, and then it'll tell you how to cut them. So that's kind of the long way to go about it, but when you're working with instructions, that's really what you should be doing, is following exactly what it's telling you. But I'm going to give you some ways you can cheat to make this go faster. Just come in here and find fabric J1 and do the cutting for it and label it, set it aside. Turn the page and go to fabric J2. Cut the strips, label them, set them aside. Go to fabric J3, cut the strips, label them, and set them aside. And you get through all of your colors. And so this one goes to a fabric J4, so I would cut my strips for J4, label it, set it aside. Okay? The reason we like to do that is because then we can come back, and you've already, if you're to that point, you should have all your template layout sheets and everything cut out. Then we can pair up all the template layout sheets to those colors. All right, and then I just pin them to it, and then I go through the cutting, and after I cut, that's when I put them into those bags. And at the very beginning of your pattern, it tells you how many bags you have to have. And so that's basically the way I set up and work when I'm working with a pattern. Okay, so I'll go through and I'll cut all of the strips, I'll cut all my foundation papers, I'll get them put into the bags. I'll cut all of the template layout sheets, set the layout sheets aside, and after the strips are cut, then I pair the layout sheets up to the strips. All right? And then I would go to the next booklet, which starts on page 10, and I would do the cutting for that just the same way. And then I'd work through all my fabrics again. All right? Now, when you do it that way, you're going to have to handle those fabrics several times. So you need to keep them somewhat in order as you're going through the cutting. All right? And then you're going to go through each booklet like that. Now, if you have Quiltster, which is the greatest quilting tool we ever created for our patterns, and not only our patterns, but other people's patterns, Quiltster will actually take all of those cutting and all of the fabric cutting instructions, and if you print out a sheet like this, what I printed out here is, this is, so you can print it by yardage, you can print it by block, and you can print it by group. And what I printed here, this is by block. And take a good look at this chart. So it took all of my light colors and it grouped them together. So I can come in here, and the very first thing I'm going to cut, it tells me to cut C1, so I'm going to have a little label. And if I don't have labels to stick on my fabric, I can actually make 2 copies of this, and I can come in here and I can cut this strip off right here, which you'll see in a little bit, and it'll have that label on it, and it tells me 4.5 inch strips are cut from ivory. And then I'll go to the next cutting. It says B2A, 3 2.5 inch strips are cut from ivory. And then it'll come in and say L9 is my next fabric number, and it tells me to cut a 1 13.5 inch strip. And it goes through there, and so now all I have to do is pick up ivory and get all of the cutting done for ivory. And then I stack all of my fabrics back up, and I put them in alphabetical order, basically. Then we go to red. And we're going to do all of the cutting for red. Now what this is telling me to do is cut everything for all of the booklets for my pattern. And this is set up for the queen. So I'm actually going to have J strips. I'm going to have some labels with L. I'm going to have some K labels. I'm going to have some D labels and some C labels from all of the different groups in this pattern. But I only have to mess with that color one time. And then we turn the page, and it has all of my cutting for the black, all of the cutting for purple, and it goes through. In my world, when I can do this, for every quilt I do, if I use Quiltster, it's worth its money in gold, because it just took, right there, it probably saved me about 4 hours of cutting time, because I can set it up this way, and it just prints out the information for me. And so the other thing you may want to do is, when you're doing that, if you bought a kit, go through and cut the biggest strips first, because you go through and find out. I'll cut the whole section apart, and then I'll lay my strips along the edge of my table, and I'll put the biggest cut first, and then the next cut, the next cut, the next cut, so that I'm cutting from the biggest to the smallest. And the reason we like to do that is because if for some reason we make a cutting mistake, those small strips, quite often you can get the pieces you need on the leftover pieces from the big strips. So it really is a good way to teach yourself how to cut out a pattern or a quilt, is cut the biggest stuff first. And this will make it really easy to set that up. Okay? So I have this piece right here. I've already cut all those strips. Now I'm going to go through and show you how I sort and prepare them for all of my bags in my pattern. Okay, so in this, I'm going to set the pattern aside. if you look in my bag, you can get all of the strips. This is a queen size quilt, and you can see that I have all of the strips for the whole quilt is cut. And notice that on each strip I have these labels that I cut from that page I just showed you. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've cut all of the, have everything cut for every single color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my light colors first. We're just going to set all of our stuff here. As long as you don't mix up all your colors, it's just really easy to put this together and to sort it. I'm going to take it out. And notice that I have a whole bunch of little swatches in here, so if I need swatches, I have them available. So I'm going to put this down here like that. And I'm going to just set these out of the way over here and here. So this is all my light background fabric, and it says J2. So I'm going to start a pile here for J2. This one says L9, so I'm going to do a pile for L. This says B2B, so I'm going to do a B pile because that's my border. This one says B2A, so that's going to go on the B pile. This strip right here says C1, so that's for the border for the queen. This fabric right here tells me that that's for D8, so I'm going to set up D8 right here. Excuse me. This one says it's a D1, so I'm going to put it in this pile with my Ds, and this is a K2 pile. So now I have a J pile, K pile, L, B, C, and D. So now I'm going to pick up my black fabrics right here. We're going to go down a little bit. And I'm going to start right here. This one says a B3, so my B pile is right there. So you can see that I'm going to have to move this down just a little bit more. So I'm going to put that underneath the other ones. This one is a D11, so I'm just going to set it underneath my D1 pile, or my D at the bottom of my D pile. This one is a D10, so I'm going to set that on top of my D11. Notice how I'm trying to keep them in order. This one is a B2C, so I'm just going to go like that. That goes in my B pile. This color right here is a B1, so that's going to be the top. This one is a J4, so that's going to go over here on the bottom of this pile. Now we're going to pick up another stack. This says D6, so I'm just going to look down here, and we're going to put it right here. And this one is a J1, so that goes on the top of the J pile. This is a K1, so that goes on the top of the K pile. This is an L10, so that goes on the bottom of the L pile. This fabric is a D7, so I'm going to go down and I'm going to put it underneath D6 and put it in this pile. Now we're going to start in our rainbow colors. And I'm actually going to start with my yellow. And my yellow says DC9. And I'm just going to put all of the rainbows on the top because then I can get them set up in order. This is a K4. This one is a K3. This one is L7. This one is J3. And this one is C3. So we're going to set it there. Now we're going to grab the orange, which is my number 2 stack.
Mom.
Yeah?
It might be good to mention too that the L's are going to change numbers because of the mistake we found in Quiltster.
I'll go over that when I get ready to go through.
Okay.
Okay.
So when she says the yellow is L7, it's actually L1, so don't panic. She's got to switch some things around and show you the corrections. So anyway.
Okay. All right. So now we have, this one's a D2. This one, basically what I'm looking for on these is I really need that first letter, which says C. It would be J, K, L. And so that's a C. This one is a D. This one is a K. This one is a K. This one is an L. This one is a J.
And if you guys haven't cut and labeled your strips and everything like she is right now already, we cover that in the pre-class cutting instructions video. A link was posted earlier and we'll do it again. So just watch what she's doing and then we can kind of guide you through that. You can go back and look at that process and it'll help you get to this point with your fabrics where you're actually labeling them, sorting them, and getting them organized. So she's just showing you that process and how she actually gets her bags prepared here.
So what I'm doing, I'm putting all the K pieces together, the J pieces together, the C pieces, and then we have purple. Is everybody following what I'm doing there? How I'm sorting these? It's an L, J, and that's a C. It's a D.
Carol says this helps a lot.
Good. I can't do it any other way anymore.
Joanna says this is making perfect sense, and Marnie says that this is the easy part.
Yes. But what this does is it sets you up to where you're not having to think about the pieces that go with A and the pieces that go with, you know, it just really does set you up, and it puts you into the mode of just doing one part at a time. So D, K, K, L, J, and C. So this is where this is going to get to be really easy because this is my D pile. Well, why worry about D right now? Let's go ahead and focus on what we're going to put together today. So I'm going to take the D stuff because this is all for my queen, and I'm just going to put it back in my bag. All of the C stuff is for the queen as well, is also for the queen, or it's for the C border. So we're going to put those back together, and we don't have to worry about sorting those today. Okay, so now I'm just going to set my B group here. And let's start with the B because that's the simple one. So I have a B1. And I'm just going to flip it upside down because what I want to do is get everything in order. So we have B1 on the bottom. We have a B2. So we have three pieces. This is a B2, a B2, and a B2. So what we did is we have a B2A, which is our first color, a B2B, which is the second color, and a B2C, which is the third color. So when you're doing that border, and I'm going to point to it over here on the big quilt. Can you switch me, Judel?
Hold on just a second. Okay.
On this quilt, that's my B group. You actually can have up to 3 colors repeating in that. We only have 2, okay? So I have A on top, B, and C on the bottom. So we're going to take those and set those aside. And I like to kind of spread them out as best I can. And then my B3 color is the last one. So now I actually have these in the order in which my instructions are going to tell me how to cut them. So what I'm going to do is go back to my book, and we're going to slip these fabrics with this. Okay, so that's my B. And I'm going to come back to that, but I'm going to keep these together right here in a pile. Now we're going to do the L group. Now we have the rainbow colors. So if you have Quiltster, if you go out and open it up, everything in there as of about 10 o'clock this morning should be correct. It has yellow listed as color 1, the orange is color 2, and it'll go all the way through your colors properly now. Okay, if you printed it out yesterday or this morning, check it, because if your Quiltster color, like mine says L7 right now, I'm just going to change that, and this is, I'm going to cross that out, and this is going to say L1. Okay. My orange says L6, and I'm going to change that to L2. And if you look in your instructions, when you put those colors in the instructions where I told you to put those swatches, it has all of that information. So you just need to change the labels on all of these.
And I'm going to interrupt here for a second and explain why this is important. Normally it wouldn't matter where that L1, L2, L3 is, but on the L group, it matters a little because
the left and right.
There's a left and right unit, and the way you use those fabrics with your colors makes it, or with your templates makes a difference. So it is important that your yellow is 1, your orange is 2, your red is 3, and so on, if you're going to follow along with her on the cutting. And if you're using a different color layout, then it doesn't matter so much. Just know that whatever your L1 through L8 is, you'll use it with the templates noted. So, but if you're doing the rainbow and you want to follow along in the instructions and follow along with Judy in the class, it's important that yellow is 1. But you may have printed out a Quiltster printout that said yellow was something else. So just make it L1, and then you should be all set.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my L8, I'm going to restack everything in reverse order. Okay, and now we have them all set here. I'm going to just spread them out on top of that, and I have L3. So this was my L9 and L10. So, okay. So now I'm going to take, and we're going to slip all of this information. Okay. Now something I want to point out is in Quiltster, remember when I told you you can actually sort it by group? Well, you can actually print it out so that all it prints out is the information for the L group. And then I'm just going to put that.
See that? I didn't demo that in the pre-class video, but I can demo that maybe at the end of today's class for people who want to stay on for a little bit longer and show you how you actually make that happen. So
that's my L group. Now we're going to do the same thing with the K's. So we're going to find all of our colors, and I'm going to start 2 piles. My green's going to be on the bottom, and so that's going to be 8 and 8. Then we have our teal. This is 7, and this is 7. And then we have the blue, which is 6, 6, and then the purple is 5.
Your Quiltster printouts don't tell you the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, or she's labeling them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It doesn't tell you that information. It just numbers them all the same. So you have lots of K3s and K4s in this case. So she's just adding that to her labels so that you can see it. If you got a kit from Quiltworx, and probably from many of our other instructors, they went through, or we went through and added that to your little sticky labels for your kits. If you're setting it up yourself, just make sure that you label them so that you remember that the yellow is the first fabric, orange is the second fabric, and so on. And you can either use a little semicolon with an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, or you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just remember how you do it when you're working through your pattern.
So now I've got everything in the order from the yellow down. So my colors basically here, I have a K1, a K2, and then this one, this is actually a K3 color. So everything's K3, and then I just numbered everything 1 through 8. And so we're going to slip that there. And this is actually I think this one is a K something. I'd have to look at the instructions. I'll tell you that in just a second.
K4.
This is K4. Okay, so I have my 2 piles here. And so these are going to go with this pile and this pile. I'm going to set that group there. And now we're going to sort out number 1, or the J group. So we have, these are J3s. I have a J1, a J2, and the cutting order in this is it puts J3. So we want the green on the bottom, and then teal, blue, purple, punch, red. So again, I start with color 1, and I'm just going to mark each one of those. There's color 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. So that's going to go like this and like this. And now we're going to grab all of the information for the first group. Okay. So now we're going to start the whole sorting. So we've got everything for group 1, and I've got it all laid down in the cutting order. So as I open up my pattern, I'm going to have to move this over. If I go back here to my instructions, and let's go ahead, if you have your instructions in front of you, turn to page 7, okay? And at this point on page 7, if you haven't cut swatches, this is a good time to come in here and cut a swatch, and you can just cut them right down the selvage on one of these strips and build this swatch thing. So if you look, I have fabric J1 on top, fabric J2, and then I have my rainbow colors or my J3 colors, and they go from A to H or 1 to 8, and then my J4. All right. So everything's stacked in my cutting order. Then what I like to do is after I cut those swatches, I'll come back to go to my instructions, and I'll find where it says fabric J1, and I'll actually put a swatch there. And the reason I do that is because my brain has a tendency to look at the hatching or the graphic and go, oh, well, that's a dark color, when in reality it may be a white color. It depends on how I colored it, because we don't tell you what color to buy your fabric. We assign a number to the color that you pick for that spot. Okay, so I put a swatch there, and I'll go through my instructions and add swatches. So I have my light swatch for fabric J2, I have a yellow swatch for all my rainbows, and the black is sitting down here for J4. Okay, so now when I'm doing my cutting, I'm going to see that and realize, oh, I'm at the next fabric. Okay, so we're going to get into our bags now, and we're going to go through the instructions, and we're going to start at the top of page 7, and it told us that we needed to have 2 bags. I like to, if I have more than 2 bags, then what I like to do is get a group bag to where I can put all the individual bags inside that group. Okay, I'm going to take all of my template layout sheets, and they're going to stay inside that group bag. Then I have a J bag, a J2 bag, and it tells me in my instructions, if you read it, that I was supposed to put units J1 into the J1 bag, which I have, and I also have the J2 bags in a J2 unit in a J2 bag. Now, your unit numbers don't always match up to the bag numbers. It just happens to be that it does on this particular pattern, so don't let that confuse you.
Also, I'm going to add too, if you guys haven't cut your papers yet, don't worry about that. Go back to the pre-class prep video after this is over, and you can watch details and learn more about how to cut all of your papers out. That was a step that should have been done before class, but I know a lot of you are tuning in new, so we go over that in more detail later, but she's got them all cut out already and prepared for you.
Yep. So here's another nice thing to do, because when I sit down and cut something out, I cut the whole quilt out. But sometimes it might get set aside for 2 to 3 months before we get back to it. So you forget what colors you cut for what if you have them all in a bag. So what I like to do is come in here, and on my foundation papers, when I'm going through all of this information on cutting, I'll make sure that I'll look at this color layout, and I'll make sure that the colors that my J4 fabric is going to go into those spikes. So I put a swatch there, and the yellow fabric, the rainbow fabrics, go into the background. Now, my brain works funny, because what if I'd had white there and I'd had my black back here, or my colors, and my head's always flipping colors, and so this stops me when I start my paper piecing, as well as when I'm doing my cutting and putting everything in there. It just gets my brain working to way, no, that's supposed to be my black fabric, not my rainbow colors. So it really helps if you put those swatches on your papers. Okay.
Also, she put a yellow one on there for the rainbow. If you want to go through that whole stack and put orange, red, and everything else on there, that also makes sure when you're sewing the pieces together that
you keep them in order.
You're sewing them all to the right piece of paper.
So I could have put, I would have had yellow, orange,
red,
and I could put a swatch on every one of them to always make sure I'm going back to the right color. Once you put the first color on, you've already got it there. So that's one of the things that we like to do with beginners, is just so that they understand where it's going. But after you get a feeling for what you're doing, you're going to start avoiding some of that work. The other thing we can do is we can number everything from 1 through 8 on it. We can number the papers 1 through 8, and that would keep them in order as well. All right, so I'm just going to take these 2 bags and we're going to put them right underneath our fabrics. And we're going to go back to all of our template pieces. So when we cut everything out, look at, I have swatches on here too, because I went through and studied it to make sure that I was cutting the rainbow pieces from the right template layout sheet. And when you're looking at your cutting instructions, I'm going to swing back over there. It'll tell me which layout sheet. So where it says fabric A3, then if you follow that through, it has all the colors, and then it says template layout sheet number 1, and that's in the heading for fabric J3. And that way I can find it. And where you're going to do is, it has the unit name, and then it says template layout sheet, and it numbers the layout sheet. So that way you can get everything in order. So now I know that this layout sheet goes with my rainbow fabrics. And I'm going to grab some paper clips, and we're just going to clip this template to my rainbow fabrics. Okay, then so let's go back to the it says fabric J1, and it says template J1-1. All right, so I have some individual templates here, and actually I just have one, and if I read it, it says unit J1 template J1-1, and it's telling me that that goes with my fabric J1, which is on top. So I'm going to just take this, and we're going to clip that template onto that fabric, and I'm going to flip it over here. Then I'm going to turn the page, and my J2 fabric tells me I need to use template layout sheet number 3. So we're going to go through, and this one says it's template layout sheet number 3. So I'm going to clip that onto that piece of fabric. And then we go to the next one, which I already did the rainbow one. So we'll just flip those over. And then for fabric J4, it tells me I need template layout sheet number 2, which is right here. All right. So now I have all of the fabrics paired with the right layout sheet. Now I want to go through this because every one of your patterns will have these 2 pieces here. And it's basically the assembly graphic for this unit. Keep those, because in your instructions, this is a lot bigger picture than your instructions, and you can see how the arrows are for the pressing information. But what's really important is if you have a left and a right unit, then it's going to separate out and have the instructions for the left units and the right units, and it gives you the information to make sure you're pairing it up. So save these pieces and just put them back into your main bag, just like that. And there we go. So I'm actually ready to start cutting now. And I'm not going to cut out everything for you guys. I'm just going to go through this, because when you go to those individual videos that we have for how to do these units, it goes through some of the cutting in there, and it goes through all the paper piecing for those in those videos, and those have already been recorded. So the very first thing we're going to do is we got to read our instructions. So a couple things I want to go over with you is it tells me the back side graphic on this unit color. So basically we set the colors up to go with the paper, and so anytime you look at your unit color. Realize that your paper is not going to match what you have here, because this is actually the paper side. And so it will make a difference on some of your units that you're working with. You have to make sure that you understand that we put the fabric numbers on the paper, so when you're looking at the paper, you know where they go. Once the paper piecing is finished, then in our instructions we try to flip those back to where you're looking at the right side of the fabric. So your graphics from page 1 are going to look different. Your color graphics from page 1 are going to look different than the graphics on the last page, because we went from the back side of the fabric to the front side of the fabric throughout the instructions. The other thing is stacking strips. Pay attention to the way it tells you to stack your strips, because if you have different colors, it's always going to have you stack your strips in the proper order of chain piecing, so that after it's cut, you'll have fabric for the first unit on the top and the last unit on the bottom.
Mom, what page is that?
Huh? I'm on page 7.
We're on page 7 right now.
Okay. So my very first set of instructions tells me to stack the 2 4.5-inch strips if you've already cut them. If you haven't, then you got to cut those. And then you're going to stack them facing right side up. And these fabrics have a right and a wrong side, so we have to have everything facing right side up. So you're going to take this, open the strip up to 42 inches wide, and you're going to stack everything facing right side up. And at this point, I can get rid of this little piece of paper now, because I don't really need it. Okay, so I'm going to take my template, and I have this glue, and it's called repositionable glue. Be careful when you use this, because this glue, if you get it in the wrong spot on your paper and different things, it can make your sewing miserable, because it'll stick, the glue will come off on the bottom of your foot. So I'm going to show you how to use it, how to keep clean with it. And the first time you use it, you're going to understand that if you aren't careful with it, what I'm saying. All right. So I'm just going to get a little bit, and what I'm going to do is run 3 light swaps, just 3 times on the back, just 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then I'm going to let it dry for a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're supposed to go all the way up to 45. The reason why is because if you put it on there wet, then that sticky stuff is going to come off on your fabric. And if you wait and let that dry for about 45 seconds to a minute, then the sticky stays with the paper. So when I pull the paper away, the sticky comes right off with that. If you notice after you put it on there that it sticks to the fabric and you go to pull it off and the fabric goes with it, then that's a sign you got too much stuff on there. All right, so you'll learn how to use it. It's an awesome tool. But what's nice is I can actually stick that on there and it's going to stay in place. And then I'm just going to grab a ruler, and I'm going to get a smaller one right there. And I'm just going to take and cut my selvage off, and then I'm going to line that up right along the selvage. And I'm going to look at my instructions, and if you look at how it's cut there, you're going to see that you have to do an overlap, so you can't just cut it here and here. What it's actually telling me when I look at my picture is if I cut it on the fold, then I'm going to have more room. So I'm going to actually take and cut it right in the middle on the fold. And then I'm going to put these 2 pieces underneath it. And you can look at your picture, and normally you'll be able to tell whether or not it can be cut right in the center, or if you have to change the way it's cut. After I get that on there, then I'm just going to take and put a paper clip on it. Now I should be able to cut right along here, here, and then flip it around. So what I'm going to do is carefully cut right up to the end of that paper template, and then I'm going to fold this piece back and just cut at the end. Don't worry about being really accurate with it, because we're doing paper piecing and we've added excess to give you lots of room. So now I'm just going to take that and I'm going to set this on here. Double check and make sure I don't have a hole there, that I cut too far. And then I'm going to take this and then line that up a little bit better. And then if I read my instructions, it told me that I had to have 8 of these pieces. It told me to have them all stacked underneath the template. I'm going to move my template layout, or my paper clip, and now I have them all clipped together. And then at the very last part, at the very last paragraph, it always tells you what bag it goes in. And so it says to put this in bag 1. So we're going to slip it into bag 1. Okay. Now we're going to turn the page. And my next fabric that's going to come up is going to be my fabric J2. I have the template with it. I know I have to have 8 pieces because I'm making 8 units. And I'm going to look at that picture. And each template on this one, I have 2 template pieces on that layout sheet. So that means I have to cut 4 pieces that go underneath this, all right, instead of 8, because I'm going to get 4 and 4. So I'm going to look at my instructions, and I have 2 4-inch strips, which I do. I can get rid of that. And then it's telling me that I'm going to have quite a bit of leftover. So basically I have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers here. And I'm going to slip this on here. And I'm going to cut. And I haven't opened it up yet. Whoops. I just went over a paper clip. Don't do that. Okay. Make sure your paper clips are off your table. Now I have to have all of my pieces right side up. So I was just basically speeding up the process instead of opening the whole strip. I read through it and realized that I could cut the pieces and then come back and stack them right side up. Okay, so now we're going to take this. Now, one of the things I like to do is when I have a template layout sheet and I have a lot of excess space in there, I like to put the repositionable glue in those excess spots, because then it doesn't stick to my fabric. Okay, so now we're going to let that dry, and if it does stick to the fabrics, then when I cut it out, then that's going to be gone. Alright, so we're going to lay that down there like that. We're going to grab our 2 paper clips, and I'm going to put 2 paper clips, 1 on each group there, and then we're going to cut around each one of those. So I'm going to cut the straight edges first. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is grab a curved ruler, and this is called curved diamond ruler, and we actually have these available at Quiltworx. I think Judel went over them. What we found is we can actually take these and put these down on our curves and basically rotate them, and we end up with we don't end up cutting our fingers. It's just a lot easier way to cut. So I'm just going to line it up with the curve, and then as I go, I'm just going to keep rotating it. Okay, now I'm going to flip that paper clip to the other side. And again, don't worry about the accuracy, but you do have to make sure, notice on your paper it says sew side. You always have to make sure that when you do your cut on those lines that you cut right on the sew side line, all right? The outside line doesn't make a lot of difference if it's perfect, but you do need to have that sew side because that's set up with the radius of the foundation paper that you're going to be sewing it onto. So you want that to be pretty close. I'll flip this around, put them on the bottom edge. And this kind of has a straight line for a little bit, and then it starts to curve. So I'm going to get rid of all of that fabric, excess fabric, and then I'm going to set that aside. All right, so now we have 8 pieces there, and if I look at my instructions and read right at the bottom, it's going to tell me that these go into bag 1. And now we're going to go through our first stack of rainbow. So the way I'm actually going to go through the stacking on the rainbow is going to be the same for the other booklets that we're going to go over really quick, all right? So I'm going to look at my picture here, and it looks like out of each strip I have to get 2 cuts, okay? That means I'm going to have to take my template and then flip it like this on my strips. So it tells me to make sure that when I stack these, that I have them stacked with the green on the bottom, which is number 8. I'm going to get rid of all of these now. And so then we're going to put our teal. And my table's not very big, so just bear with me for a little bit while I get these stacked. And then we have blue. Whatever you do, don't cut these one at a time. You're going to stack all 8 colors. Then we have our purple. And then our pink. Now, the only booklet that it's really going to make a difference on the stacking order is going to be when we do the star, which is the L booklet. Because the rest of them, you're just going to make sure you have 1 unit out of each color. And you can move those around, but in that one booklet that will make a lot of difference, so you have to make sure. And if you always stack starting with yellow as number 1 and make sure it's on the top and go down to color 8 on the bottom, then you're going to memorize that sequence, and it'll make it easier for you as you continue through the cutting for all of the other pieces. All right, so we have those stacked now. So now I have my template layout sheet, and we're going to grab and I'm just going to hit it 3 times very lightly. I'm going to let that dry for a minute. I'm going to clean off my strips here. Okay. So notice that I didn't go in and do any pressing or anything.
I'm going to stop you for just a quick second. On the instructions for one of the pieces you cut previously, I think, did it say to sew the TRP lines?
Yeah, but we're not going to do that yet.
Okay, so people are asking what's TRP and what does that mean? So
I'll get over that. We'll do the TRPs after bit.
Okay, so just stay tuned on that question and we'll get back to it.
So what I'm doing is just kind of pressing out right there in the middle, the fold. And something I'm going to show you guys that's really kind of cool is we have these starch pins, and I believe Judel put these on the supply list. So if you can get a hold of this, I can actually take this starch, and if I don't have time to go to the iron, even if I am working with batiks, this will get rid of all my fold lines. I can just run it through, and when it's dry, all my fold lines will be gone. If I hit it with an iron, all the fold lines will be gone. So it's really kind of nice because it'll just lay those folds down really nice for you, and you don't have to deal with them. I'm not going to do all of those for you guys today. I'm not going to mess with worry about it at this point because I can press them after the fact. So I'm going to put the template layout sheet on now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my paper clips, which are right here. And I'm going to clip this template in just a couple places, like that. And you want to double check and make sure everything's somewhat lined up, and it's not lined up very good. So I'm going to straighten it just a little bit to make sure all my edges are lined up a little bit better. That looks better. Then I'm just going to take 2 paper clips. Now I'm just going to straighten this out the best I can. And then we're going to cut right along the end of the template. Right? Now, if you have a rotary cutter that you can't cut through that many, and I know that as we get older our strength goes away, then just do this cut in 2 piles. Just cut 4 layers at a time instead of the 8 layers. Okay? So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip this around. And actually, I'm telling you wrong. I don't even need this because I'm doing a rainbow. So all I have to do is just have 1 template cut out of that fabric. So look at all of that nice leftover fabric from mistakes. You see why I said always cut? You know, don't worry too much about mistakes and stuff like that, because you'll probably have a few pieces that are left over when you're working with your rainbow. So what we're going to do is just fold these up and put them off to the side here. And that'll make it really nice to where if you do have a mistake later on, you can come back to a nice big piece of fabric. So now I'm going to put a paper clip on each section, and I do this before I cut my templates apart so that I can I don't have to come back and do it later, and the fabrics don't slide on me. So I'm going to so when I'm done, I should have a paper clip on each section. So I have one here, I have one on section 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And I try to twist those paper clips so they don't go over the cut lines. So when you're looking at your template layout sheet now you're going to find where it says cut line 1, which is right here. And I like to use my add-a-quarter ruler when I'm doing this because it has the lip and then it sets flat over the top of the paper clips. so I don't have it rolling on the paper clips. So there's my cut line 1, and I'm just going to slice. Now we're going to find cut line 2, and if the paper clips are in the way, just move it off, move it out of the way. Okay, now notice I'm going to go back. So my very first cut line, that was for my section 11. This one's for section 9, and I'm going to stack everything with the sew side so that it's away from you. Okay, don't have the sew sides facing you because that puts everything backwards. You want to have it so it's away from you. And then we're going to go to cut line 3, which I have it buried underneath that swatch. And this is section 7. Then we're going to go to cut line 4. And this one is for section 5. And then we're going to go to cut line 3. This one goes to section 3. And then we're just going to take this and cut that excess off because we don't need it. And that is my section 1. And section 1 doesn't have a sew side, and the reason why is because it's going to have excess on both sides, and when you flip it over, you position it different than you position all the others. But I'm just going to lay it on top. We're going to go back to our instructions, and our instructions tell us that all those pieces go into bag 2. So we're going to set these into bag 2. Just like that. Okay. Now we have our last piece here, and the last piece tells me restack the 4 5-inch pieces, which I have 4 5-inch pieces here. And I need to have 8 pieces. So unit J is place cut 8 pieces. So basically we're going to take this. I'm going to open this up because I'm going to have, if I just cut it in half, I'm going to end up wasting a lot of fabric, and it's going to be nice to have some nice big pieces left over. So if you're new to paper piecing, you'll be able to come back to this to cut a piece if you make a mistake in the paper piecing. So we're going to put some repositionable glue on the back of it. Let that dry for just a few seconds. I'm trying to get these edges lined up. That's pretty good. So now I'm going to place that on there like that. Okay. Okay. So I didn't press my fabric, so if I look at the instructions, it tells me just to move this over and cut again. But I didn't press my fabric, so I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to flip it like this. And that way I don't have to go over and get all of that fold out of there. So now I can place it onto that stack. And that still gives me quite a bit of leftover there to play with if I have to make a correction. And we'll just set that up here. Okay. So now we're going to grab our paper clips again before we do the cutting, and you're going to place those paper clips on. Now we're going to read our information here, and this says cut line 1, right there. Then we have cut line 2, cut line 3, four, and cut line 5. So we have 12, this is 10, this is 8, 6, 4, and 2. And I have all my sew sides stacked along this edge. And this one actually tells me to put these in bag 2. All right. So now I have my bags, everything's cut, and then I'm going to take this, and at this point I'm just going to put a stapler basically right here, and I'm going to staple those together, and that's for all of the pieces I need to make what's on the wall right here. All right, now you guys ask a question about TRP lines. So I'm not going to do a paper piecing demo on this part because we already have a video all pre-done and ready for you to go look at that shows you how to stack it, how to do the paper piecing, how to trim, every step that you need in your instruction. It also tells you how to sew the TRP lines. So I'll just tell you really quick what TRP lines are. Is we use them to set it up to where, like, when you sew this piece and this piece together, you know exactly where to match, because I have TRP lines. Let's put it right here and maybe you can see it a little bit better. This piece has a TRP line here and here. This one has a TRP line here and here.
Maybe can you hold it up to the video, up higher to the camera? Maybe?
Well, I pulled that one out.
Oh, you did. Well, how about the other piece? Does the other piece still have them in?
Yeah. So what I do, can you see that? I don't know if they can see.
It's hard to see because the thread color she
has.
You can just
I did them out of white. But basically there's a line there. It would be no different than taking a pencil and marking that line. I like to sew them. And I really recommend that you sew your TRP lines if this is the first thing you've done, the first time you've worked with one of our patterns.
With a basting stitch also.
Yeah, it's a basting stitch, and then you'll pull it out after you sew these two pieces together. Then you'll pull those out. Notice that there's some on the outside, which means that that's going to match up to another piece in another unit, okay? So as you assemble, you're going to pull out the ones that have been matched as you assemble your blocks. The reason I like to sew them is because when I get to the finish where I'm sewing all of the blocks together, I can see the TRP line from the front side and the back side if I stitched it. If all I did was mark it, then I can't see it. I only can see it from the back side, so I spend more time looking for it. And it takes you less time to pull that thread out than it does to have to look back and forth, go through and mark it, okay? The instructions that for paper piecing go over how to do all the TRP lines. So I'm not going to spend any more time with talking about it.
So yes, someone just said, so TRP is the reference point. Yes.
It is.
It stands for transition or reference point, which is how we came up with the name TRP, and then we just shortened it. You'll see them all throughout your quilts, and we use them now fairly extensively, especially on our curved seams, so that you know how to sew your pieces together and where to match along the way. So a couple things. So people are asking about time now, and they're asking about a link for the paper piecing, etc. It is 2:25, and we're not going to go through the cutting for the K group, are we?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of details here, and she's going to actually set up to show you the paper piecing and information on the B group, which is the border today. We might go a little bit over 3 p.m. If you can't stick around with us for that long, just stop, and when it posts, you can go back and watch the rest of it later. So no one worry about time. Nobody will miss anything because you'll be able to tune in. And then I'm going to show you really quick where those video links are while she gets the stuff for the B group going. So she showed you the J group, which is the centerpiece. There's also a K group, and we're actually not going to go over.
Yes, we have to go over a few things on K, but not much.
Okay, so she does have a couple things on K. I'm going to switch over here to the internet for a second, though. On our on our YouTube channel, you're going to go to, hold on, I want to go back to our main page. So this is the main Quiltworx page. So then under playlists, click on playlists, and then you'll see Macaw, and it says view full playlist. You can click there, and you can see the Stella Maris J group palm leaf. And that's a pre-recorded video that will get you through all of the paper piecing now that you have all your bags organized. And the K group is also there, and you'll be able to reference all of the paper piecing for that. The videos that we're taping now will also go into this playlist video, so you can find them all in one easy place as we record them as the class moves forward. So just so you know where that is, it's on our YouTube channel, and then under playlists, and then just find Macaw, and you should be in the right place. So let's see. Please explain the instructions for pre-sorting the remaining rainbow fabrics at the bottom of page 4. Let's see. So at the bottom of page 4, do you want to go back to page 4 for a second, Mom? Someone asked about that.
Okay.
So I think I'm switching back to her. I think we went through page 4.
Yeah.
So she showed all of the.
I'll explain what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, what we did because this is a rainbow quilt, is we actually set up, you know how I gave you the pre-cutting instructions on a Quiltster? We actually set up the pre-cutting instructions in here. So that's where you're going to have to just read that, and there's some pre-cutting instructions there to tell you how to cut all of those strips. So like if you look at the rainbow, you're going to have 8 13.5-inch strips. For step 5, you're going to have 1 5-inch strip. You're going to have so just go through all of that, because I can't go through it with you, but if you follow it step by step, it'll take you all through the cutting of all of those fabric strips before we started. That's what that information goes through with you, okay? All right.
Okay, so we're going to switch back to Group K for just a bit, and she'll go over a couple things she wants you to know about that. And then we're going to do the piecing on your unit, on your B group. So if we go over today, just know that we will also... We'll finish. You guys may not be there if you have to go, but you can come and tune back in. Right. And if you want to stick around with us, you can.
Yep.
Because we'll be here.
All right. So let's take a quick look at the K. As far as the cutting, going through the instructions, sorting all of the layout sheets, it's done the same exact way. And when you get into watching the information on the K group, it's going to set you all up in the same manner as well. That's your video for how to assemble the pieces. What you're not going to get out of that video is how we set up the color in the K group, because it's a rainbow. Because those videos aren't based on rainbow. So what I want to show you is on our K group, we have a yellow background, and we have a left and a right unit. Okay, so I'm just going to set them up here so you can see. So we have a yellow background, and then we put the orange pieces with it, okay, the strips. When you set up those papers, what you want to do is put the yellow on your foundation paper, and then put a little strip of orange on your foundation paper so that you know you have your colors in the right place. And then notice the next one goes the oranges. So the orange strip on this one is, you have a yellow background, an orange strip, and then the next piece is an orange background with a red strip, and then you have the red background with the pink strip, and then we have the pink background with the purple strip, then we have the purple background with the blue strip, and you have the blue background with the teal, and then you have the teal background with the green strip, and then you have the green background with the yellow, which was the first color. Now, it's going to tell you to put swatches onto your pieces so that you know what colors go, but you guys are going to have to put a swatch on every one of those papers, or you won't know what they're supposed to look like. All right, and I believe I'm going to show you, because I can't remember if I did this on this paper, but we're going to look. I actually did do the swatches, and do both of them at the same time so you don't end up going backwards color wise with them. So if you look, see how I have the green swatch with the yellow, and then I just keep going down my pieces. All right, so you have to do that to make sure that your rainbow colors are in the right order. Now at this time, I'm going to set the K group aside, and we're going to put all of this fabric, and I'm going to show you how I bag everything, because I don't have time to sort it for you, and you don't need to watch me sort it. So I'm just going to take, and in my main bag, I'm going to put all my pre-cut strips in here like this. Then I'm going to take my foundation papers, and I've already got all of the swatches and everything on them, and I'm going to slip these back in here like that. And then I have all of my template layout sheets. Whoops, there's another bag of swatches of papers. And then I'm going to take all my template layout sheets, and I'm going to put them in here like that. And then I'm just going to close up this. Now, if I don't get back to this for a month, everything for my K group is right there in that bag, all my fabrics, all right? So I want you guys to organize your stuff like that, because it really makes it easier to make these quilts. And I'm going to actually just put this in there as well, because that's a picture of how the K group looks. There we go. I had to make 2 quilts for this video. That's what all of these pieces are, so I could show you guys. Okay, so the B group. The B group for my quilt is all just black and white. And if you guys bought kits, you probably found the same thing. It's always probably black and white or white and black, which is the same, except that some of them have all black background and some of them were designed with white background with the black accents. Okay, So I have, for the foundation papers, you have a right side and a left side. And you're going to read the instructions when it starts telling you what to do with the papers, is because it tells you what bags they go. And I'm going to go ahead and turn to that page right now. Get back to there. All right, so what it tells me is you have a B2R, you have a B1R, you have a B2L, and a B1L, okay? And if you look at how it's set up at the top where it says Ziploc bags, and I'm on page 21, it tells you you have 3 bags. Bag 1, you're going to put unit B2R and B1L in the same bag. Okay? Bag 2, you're going to put B1R and B2L in the same bag. The reason why is because those 2 groups are actually paper pieced the same way, even though when you're done, one of them becomes a left side piece and a right side piece. Okay? But so I just went through and all I did was set the swatches up for my colors on one piece there. And because I know that all of these are going to be pieced together, right? And then we did the same thing for the B2R bag. So I'm going to put this away because we're not going to do both bags. And then bag 3 is for all of my black background. And I'm going to pull these out because I want to go through the templates and go through some information. So this fabric's going to go in bag 3. And this is bag 2 here. And these strips are for both bag 1 and 2. So this is bag 3 that we're going to go over. So when you open up the templates, the foundation paper for these, you're going to see something kind of funny here. So basically what we've done is this is called a T-template layout sheet, right? And what it means is when you open up your paper, if you see something with these great big dashed lines around it, pay attention to those dashed lines, and you're going to actually cut on those dashed lines when you cut that out. You're not going to cut the individual templates out. The reason we do that is so that it makes it easier for you to actually take these and set them right onto your fabric. These pieces were part of that. However, this piece had to be cut out, so it wasn't included inside the boundaries of that dashed line. And the reason why is because the way the grain line is set up on these is a little bit different, okay? So, can you see how funny that looks? You're going to have 2 pieces. You're going to have it for the left, so that says left, left, and left. And this one is actually for the right. And you're going to keep those together like that. Does that make sense? When we get ready to cut those out, and if you go to your instructions and you turn to page 22, it shows you how to set those up on your strips. And then after you get these attached to the strips, then you do the cutting. And what that does is it puts all the grain line going in the same direction for the pieces that have to be cut out. And we found that it's a lot easier, plus it saves a lot of fabric when we group those templates together, because you don't have to cut as many individual strips and you don't have as much waste of fabric. So it's just something that we've figured out over the years, how to save fabric and how to save time in your cutting. So I'm going to take these template pieces and put them back into bag 3, and your cutting instructions will show you how to cut those out. All right, So we're going to set this. Now, we're going to start with the bag 1. And the same thing, you're going to go through and set up all your colors. Remember, you can have up to 3 colors when you're doing this border here. You can do it with 2 colors, or you can do it as a solid piece. Now, if you do it as a solid piece, then you need to remember, don't cut all your strips for this. When you're going through all your cutting and it starts telling you to cut your strips for your B group, don't cut anything, because if you're doing a solid color, you can just take the layout sheets, the foundation units, and you can actually just flip-flop them and set them on your sheets and cut them out that way. But remember, if you do that, it has to be put onto the back side of the fabric, because when you're setting this up, you're sewing to the back side of the fabric, all right? So if you want to save some time and you don't want to do the little wedges, this can actually be cut as a whole piece by using your papers. So I have my fabrics, I set up my strips here, and then when you go over, after we get done with all of the cutting for the other pieces, then you're actually going to go through to the bottom where it says preparing the strips. So there's 2 sets of strips, and because of the way I have my fabric set up, both of those strips are actually stacked the same way, but we've got to make 2 color groups. So we're going to have, it tells me I need a B2B for group 1, and then I need a B2C, which is my black, and then I need a B2A. So if I had 3 strips, that's where 3 different colors, that's where this would really start playing. And then I need a B2B, and that was this color. It's another light. And then it tells me I need a B2C. All right. Now, I can just cut this stack in half, so I'm going to come right here to the fold, and I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to restack these strips in the order that I have here. Okay, so we're going to come down here below, and I should have a B2. So this is going to be my first one, so that's my B2, and then I'm going to put this one over here, and then we have black, and we have black, and I'm just putting everything wrong side up right now, and then I'll flip it over.
Okay, Kim Howe asked a quick question. She said, just to clarify, if I cut the B group pieces out of one fabric only, I put the paper piece on the wrong side of the fabric, right?
Correct.
Yes, so you put that on the wrong side with the writing facing up. And then when you cut it out, that cuts it out so that it mirrors the right side, and then all the units are facing the right direction.
So this is my wrong side of my fabric. And if that was a bigger piece, then I would just lay that on there, and I would glue each one of those templates onto the wrong side of the fabric, each one of the paper templates.
Yeah, and then
just cut them out.
Yep.
And then you still have everything marked with B2L and B2R and things like that, okay? And it will save fabric. That's why I'm saying if you're using one color for that piece, then don't cut any of the strips, right?
And it's saved. Now you don't have to paper piece it, and the pieces are just done, which is kind of cool. So, I mean, maybe if it was me, I'd probably just be like, oh, I'll just use one fabric.
Yeah, sometimes we do that. And it gives you a different look, and then you can do some really pretty quilting in those spots too. All right, so now, because now I have 2 strip sets that are exactly the same here.
And she flipped them over.
Yeah, so now they're facing right side up. And I'm going to take one of the piles here, and I left all of my numbers on here because I didn't number these, and I'm not gonna do 8. I'm just gonna do one set for you to demo this. So I'm gonna clip these on to this piece like that, okay? And then I'm gonna take this one and I'm gonna clip this because I have my little swatches. And this is actually gonna be what we're gonna do our demo with, okay? Now I still have the fabrics here, and I have to set up the strips for the other bag as well. But I did one bag. You guys are gonna go back and follow your instructions and set up both bags at the same time. That way you won't get confused. Okay, so we're just going to set this aside, and I know that all of these go into this bag, other bag, so we're going to slip them in there, and then we won't lose them. And I'm going to put this other set into this bag. All right. So I am working with my papers that are labeled B1R. And so basically all of the way I did my color, all my groups are the same color. So I should have a white, and then I should have a black, and then I should have 2 whites and a black, and that's my sewing order for my fabrics. Okay, so now when I go over to we're gonna go down below, and it goes into the strip piecing. So I want you to realize that there are no videos for this unit done yet, so you're gonna have to refer back to this video for this one. And so it tells me in the very first step, if you look at the picture, basically what we're going to do is we're going to sew these strips, or these papers, on in a strip, okay? And the very first thing it tells us to do is to take fabric number 1, put it in your hand, wrong side up. Then you're going to take fabric number 2, and you're going to put it underneath fabric number 1 with right sides together. So this one's right side up, this one's wrong side up. So now I have my 2 strips with right sides together, and actually I did that wrong. This one actually tells me that fabric number, this one is supposed to be right side up. This one's on top, and it goes like that. Because I'm B1L. Oh, I know why. Because I'm starting with the B1R papers. So let me change this, because this will confuse you. I'm going to go find the B1R papers, because that's the way the paper piecing is set up, is to use B1L. So I'm going to quickly write this. So my B1L papers are supposed to be, the first color here is black, and this is white. This is white. This one's black, and this one's white. Okay, so the reason why I have to switch this down is because the paper piecing instructions that we're using are actually based off of this unit right here, okay? So I'm just going to make sure that my fabrics are now in the correct order, and they were. So we're going to start over. Okay, so we have our fabrics. Now it tells me to take fabric number 1 and fabric number 2. So on this one, my black will be on the bottom, and my white will be on the top. So what happens is as you go, when you get to the right side, you're going to actually start with your black on the top. So you have to make sure that you have your fabrics in the right order for those stacks, right? And something that really helps you is when you're putting these little swatches on, like what I did here, and I have here. See, that shows me how those are going to come together now for my colors. Do you see what I'm saying there? So I have black, 2 white, black, 2 white, black, 2 white, and black. And that's the way we set up our color layout. If you had 3 colors, you would have 1, 2, 3, and then you would have, you'd start over C, and then you would have an A, and then it switches, and so what it does is it balances out the 3 colors so that you end up with a double and some singles on there. So you got to pay attention, and it tells you on all your papers what fabric color goes in that slot for the strip piecing, right? Hopefully that won't confuse you, but if you follow the instructions, you'll get there. So then I put it away. Where's my B1L papers? Here we go. Here we go. All right. So I have my fabrics in the right order, and we're going to take and we're going to find, this is section B1L, and that tells me I have to start with fabric BC on the top. So this one does tell me I have to start, because I'm going to start with section 1. So the black has to be on the top, and then the white is the next color. And then we should have a white, and then this goes here. I should have sorted these out last night for you, but there we go. I got them reversed now. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, with my black on the top, which is what's supposed to go there, I actually have my the dashed line is set up right along the edge of that. And what I'm going to do is start sewing, and I put that piece on, and then we add the next one, then we add the next one, and then we add the next one, okay? So when you're setting these up, you're going to have some left over here, so if you do make a mistake, you do have some room to come in and fix something later on, all right? So I'm going to put my papers right here. I like to set this on my machine, and I'm just going to start sewing and do just a few stitches to get that strip started. Okay. I'm going to put my needle down so it lands down. When you're doing strip piecing, you want your needle to be down. Okay. Now I'm going to take the first piece of paper, and I'm going to line the dashed line up to the edge at the top and at the bottom, and then put the foot down, and we're going to sew a strip. We're going to sew right on line 1. Before you get to the bottom, you're going to stop sewing, pick up the next piece of paper, leave about 1/4 of an inch between the papers, and then you're going to sew right down and add the next piece. I gotta move my foot, you guys. It's rubbing up against the board there. So we're going to take the next piece. I'm going to take the next one. All right, and now we're going to either cut your thread with your machine or on your thread cutter. When we get this, then we're going to open this up, and I'm going to finger press this open like that. And I'm going to fold this back again, and I'm going to run this starch pin right along that stitching thread and get that wet along that seam. You can kind of see how it's starting to get wet. Now when I flip this over, I can open that up and I don't end up with any folds in my fabric. And we're going to go hit it with an iron.
I guess I'm going to have to fix that camera a little bit so it's focused better.
Oh, on my iron?
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Okay. We don't have to worry about it today. So now I'm just going to take and cut this excess off. We're going to set that to the side. And then we're going to cut in between each one of these. And if you get them spaced too far apart, you may want to do 2 cuts in between there just to get that started. All right. So now when I flip it over, each one of these, like this. And the one that you have your swatch on, even though that doesn't have a swatch on, should be on the top of your stack. Now you're going to flip them over, and you're going to find a fold template, which I have one right here. And I'm going to pick the first piece up, and I'm going to place this on line 2. It's the solid line. And we're going to fold the paper back, pick up the add a quarter ruler, and trim. And then leave it folded back. Okay, I didn't open it up. Leave it folded back. Pick up the next one, fold on line 2, add a quarter, trim. Keep it folded back and stack it on top of the first one. Leave it folded back. All right, so now I look at this, and if I have swatches on there, it just tells me that's my white fabric. So I'm going to pick my white strip up and take it over to my machine, and I'll show you here on the board. Basically, we're going to take that and we're going to line the trimmed edge right up to the edge of the fabric, open the paper sew, and then we do the next one. So we'd open the paper, sew, then we'd add the next one, the next one, the next one. So I'm going to do a couple of these to just show you. And we're going to take the next one. And I didn't stop before, so I had to lift my pressure foot to set the other one. So if you remember to stop in the middle of the paper, then you don't have to lift the pressure foot.
Someone asked what the brand of the starch pin is.
It's called Acorn.
And we have them on our website. We talked about them in the pre-class video also, but maybe if Elise you're watching, maybe you can post a link to where that's at on the website too. So.
Okay, so then we're going to open that up. And we're going to go to our iron.
There's also a cord in the way. I did a terrible job of setting that camera up. Next time that'll be better. I'm sorry.
I'm like, I don't see a cord, but I see what you're saying now.
That must have actually fallen into there because I was pretty sure I checked that.
Well, I think I moved the iron because it used to be right here, Judel.
Oh.
That's why.
Well,
I moved it over.
Sorry, guys, for my shoddy camera work. I'll try and do better next time.
Okay, so we're back to doing the same thing over. So now I'm going to kind of start winding down here just a little bit. I'm not going to make you watch me do all of this. So when you get done, you're going to have all your strip piecing. What I'd like you guys to do, if possible, is go into your pattern, try to get all of your stuff organized and ready to cut, and maybe try to do one of your paper piecing units. Go to the video, make sure you find all of the information. I don't expect you to stop living this week, and so just get what you can done if possible, all right? I'd like you to try to finish up the strip piecing, and just because if you have some issues with the strip piecing, you'll be able to ask some questions on it, all right? The paper piecing, those videos go all the way from the beginning of the steps to the end. Just remember they're not rainbow, okay? So we're just using one color as we're doing those. Then, so that's kind of what today is about, but I want to take a few minutes. What time is it?
It is 3:02.
Okay, so for those of you that have to leave, go ahead and leave. We'll have this recorded, but I'm going to go through the preparation work for next week's class so that you guys can maybe have some of that stuff prepared if at all possible. I would say to be able to go in and do the prep work would probably be the most important thing, because then you're going to understand what I'm doing next week. All right, so I'm going to put all of this stuff away and back into my bags. And remember, if you guys can't finish everything up at once, that's why we have bags, so that we can actually put everything back into the correct bag when we're done. But since I had to do paper piecing, I'll have to resort that out. And I'm just going to get everything put back together so we don't lose pieces. Now, see, the nice thing about what I do is I can now take this back over and I can put it on one of the sewing tables, and when I come back in a few days, they'll all be sewn together for me. Isn't that nice?
The magic sewing table.
Yep.
Thank you, Carolyn, for your help on those sorts of things. Carolyn works for us, and she helps get all of these little sample pieces sewn up so that we can do our demos.
Okay, so we're going to talk about next week's class.
Yeah, someone just called her a sewing fairy.
She is.
That's for sure.
And you know, her and I have been working together for almost 30 years because we worked together at a shop, and then we were in guild and we worked on things. So, you know, for two people to work that long together, we get along pretty good.
Cynthia wants to know if we sell magic sewing tables.
It would depend on where you live. You might convince her.
If she's watching, which she probably isn't, but if she is, she would be like, no.
Yeah, that would be true. Okay, so when you go through the instructions on this group, remember those, if your sheet has your yellow labeled as L7, you need to go through and relabel and make sure that you are matching the way the colors are set up. And let's turn to page 14.
And that's only going to be an issue if you used Quiltster as a guide to set your fabrics up. Just so you know, if you bought a kit from Quiltworx, I actually went through and relabeled everything as L1 starting on the yellow. If one of our shops followed the Quiltster information, then they might have them labeled different. But if you used Quiltster as a printout, that's when this is going to be the case. If you followed the pattern from the very beginning and used all the tables in the pattern, everything is going to be labeled correctly. So
yeah. And if you bought the kits through the shop, they probably sent you some links, and you could actually go in there and reprint the links, and it would come up as corrected on there. All right. So I set up my colors on page 14 on the fabric chart. Okay. So what I wanted to show you, there's a few things that are really important about doing this set. And the first one is the foundation papers. You have two sheets here. You have an NP 97 and an NP 98. When you open those up, you know, we tell you cut out all your foundation papers. If you haven't cut out your foundation papers, don't cut these out. Okay? It's really best not to. And if you'll look at the way these papers are set up, I have NP 797 is what I'm looking at. And I have a dash line, a cut line 1, and a cut line 2, and a cut line 3. And what it does is it keeps everything for this unit group together right here. So if you look at the bottom of it, it also tells you the star group. Okay, so look for the star group. It's under each one of these pieces here. Then if you read the foundation papers, if you read the actual unit, it actually tells you what color goes on each one of these strips. If you look, I have all my black, and I just went through, and it's in the same spot in each one, okay, because we have them flipped up and down here. So go through and put all your blacks on there, and those are actually your L10 fabrics. And then you're going to put all your white swatches on, and you have 2 whites at the bottom and 1 white at the top. Okay, so basically this area right here is where your color sets. And then if I look at that, it'll tell me fabric L4, and my number 4 fabric is my pink, and then my number 5 fabric is my purple. So then I put swatches on each one of the strips. And the reason I do each one is because you're going to be doing some strip piecing with these fabrics, and these need to be in the right order. And so you can't just sew any color on there. You need to have a swatch so that you know where you're at with it, okay? Then if you come in here, then you're going to do the same thing. And actually, I believe you actually have diamond pieces. You don't, this isn't strip piecing. We actually cut diamond sections out. And then you sort those diamonds out, and then you strip piece each diamond onto it. It's really easy to do it. And so next week we're going to focus on the whole process of how to set up the diamonds and sew them onto your papers. So what I want you guys to do this week is get your colors in order from 1 through 8 if you're doing 8 colors. If you're doing less colors, you still need to number your fabrics. Let's say you only want to work with 2 colors. You still need to do, one of them has to be color 1, color 2, color 3, color 4, color 5, color 6, color 7, color 8. Otherwise you won't know how to set it up because each one builds off of each other. So I have an L4 here, and then here I have L4 up, and that's the 2 pieces, okay? And if you're using the template for this pattern, what's it called? Macaw on Quiltster, you don't have you can't color it any other way than how it tells you to color it in there, because it's a template. So that's why if you're using 2 colors or 4 colors, you're still going to have to, one of those colors is going to be color 1 and then color 5, and then the next one is going to be color 2 and then color 6. So you'll use the same color over more often. Just like I have L9, and I could have had all of these one color. They could have been white, all of them, instead of any black. So anyway, I want you guys to look at these sheets. Don't cut them out. And if you can, try to get your swatches colored on. Go through your pattern and study that enough to get these swatches cut onto your papers. So I have this page, and then the next page is done the same way. So I have all the swatches set up like this. So when I'm done, what I have here is going to build the star groups that are around that in the quilt. Now, then the next thing I want to show you is you have your template layout sheet page. And what I'd like you to do is the same thing. Before you cut this out, before you cut these out, I would like you to go through and find template layout sheet number 1 and go through your instructions and read, and it's going to tell you what colors go, what the fabric colors, because if you look, this is template layout sheet number 1 right here, okay? And on number 1, I have to have orange, pink, blue, and green. So I'm only going to cut those fabrics colors from that layout sheet. Then I have template layout sheet number 2, and I have my yellow, red, purple, and blue. So see how it's every other one. So this is basically color 1, 3, 5, and 8. This is 2, 4, 6. Actually, this is 1, 3, 5, and 7, 2, 4, 6, 8 color. Then you're going to come over and find template layout sheet number 3 and template layout sheet number 4. Read your instructions, and it'll tell you which colors go on to there as well. And then template layout sheet number, let's see, these are templates. This is a template layout sheet number, we have 7, 8, 4, or 5, and 6, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 and 6 are for your black fabrics. 7 and 8 are for the white ones. And then you have these little ones on the end, and these are for the white. Okay? So once you get this done, and I will go through how we cut it all out next week. So the next video is going to be about laying this all on the fabric. I'll have my colors sorted, then we'll cut it out, and then we'll start sorting and get it all set up to do the paper piecing on one of the units. And that's what we want to focus on. But it's going to take the whole 2 hours to get that set up. All right? And then if we have time, we might do a little bit of preview on the next workshop.
And probably we'll also cut out the background pieces, right?
Yeah.
So she'll also cut out the group B background pieces that go around the outside of that there.
I can go over that as well.
Yep. So we should have time for that too. So that's it for class, right, Mom?
I think that's it. I think that's all their head's gonna be able to remember, if even they can remember. Luckily, they can go back and read what I said or listen to what I said. All right.
So we're done for today. We talked about how to prep for next week. We also gave you the information for the links on where to find the other paper piecing videos. And at the beginning, Judy had set up, or she's showed you some images where it just was printed out of Quiltster and it only had one of the groups. So group J, group K, or group L, for example. So if you want to stick around and watch that, I'm going to switch over to Quiltster and I'm going to show you how she created that because there are some tricks to it. Otherwise, if you are all set, then we'll see you next week. And thank you so much for joining us. So with that, I'm going to switch over here. Let's see. Let's find Quiltster. Okay. So I got to get to, let's see, how do I get there? Projects, Quiltster. Okay, so these are my projects on Quiltster. Oops, I got to log in. Okay, so I have several macaw patterns here, so I'm just going to pick this first one. And I know that I have a group J, K, L, B, and a B to make the wall quilt. And if I'm doing the queen, I would have a C and a D. So I'm going to make 4 copies of this macaw in cotton. So to do that, I'm going to click on this little spot here. Oops, you guys have a... Let me fix this. Pull this down here so that that's not in your way. And then over here, so I'm going to click on duplicate. So I'm going to create 4 duplicates of the original pattern. And it's important that you work with duplicates because if you go in and try and do this on the original pattern, you're going to delete all of your work and it's not going to be saved. So at this point, you want to save your original pattern. We're going to hit duplicate, and then I'm going to call this one group J, create duplicate. And it's going to open it up. Now I can go back and I can create all the duplicates at once if I want, or I can work with each of the duplicates here. So my goal is to delete everything but what's in group J. So if I click here, then I can click clear, then I can click on this one and I can click clear, and I can click on this one and I can click clear. So that clears out all the fabric. So how do I clear out the images behind it? Up here is this little button that's got up at the top, there's like, it's like a box with half black and half white. If I click that, then everything else goes away. So Quiltster is set to auto save. So it will have saved each of those moves with every step I made, but I can also come over and click on the save button. I'm going to get my mouse on the right screen here just to save that. So now I have only group J. And the cool part of that is when I click on print, now I get only that group J block. And I get only the yardage just for group J, and I can even click on by block and it'll show me only the yardage and the fabric references and then the cutting for each of that J group. So that's how she created that. Yes. Yeah, Mom's just said, don't forget you have to go make copies, like I said, to make duplicates. Don't do it on your main project or you'll delete everything out that you colored. So I'm going to go back into my projects.
So, when I do a duplicate, and I'm going to do this, then I'll rename that as group J.
Yep, so that's what I did. So it says group J. So now I can go back to that main one, and I'm going to go again and going to click duplicate. Click duplicate, don't click rename, don't click open, click duplicate. And then we're going to call this one group K. And we can't emphasize enough to work from duplicates when you do this. Okay, so now if I want to do it for K, I can choose the J group, and I can clear that one. I can clear the L group, and I can clear the background. So now all you can see is my K group. And then I can press this button, and that gets rid of all of the images. I can come over and I can save it, even though it should save it. But the nice thing about pressing save is that that helps all the images get created in the right order. And then when I go to the print page, now I can see group K. So there, see, it's group K, and again, the yardage is only for that group K piece, and the cutting is only for that by block cutting is only for the K piece. So another thing I want to show you guys, I'm just going to show you print. So there's 3 different yardage charts here. All 3 of those yardage charts can be printed individually, but if you don't print them all individually, then you'll only get the one that you're clicked on. So if you want by block, which is the one most people like to print because it has the 2 6.5-inch strips and the fabric reference on it, then you can click on by block, click on that little print underneath your image, then you choose your printer, and you can physically print that out in color so you can put it in your binder. You can also print it to a PDF and save it onto your computer so that you always have it. That way, if something happens to your project somewhere along the way, or you accidentally delete something, you have a hard copy and you can go back in and recreate it. So anyway, not too complicated to set that up. Just make sure again that you're working with your a duplicate project. So I think that that's everything, and we'll see you guys next week on Wednesday. Bye. Say bye, Mom.
Bye.